get into receivers. We're going to talk college football receivers, returning receivers in Texas college football in 2018. And it's weird because there are a lot of the guys who would have been penciled in at or near the top of the receiver charts are not going to be there next year.
Mm-hmm.
Cortland Sutton for SMU, not going to be there.
Mm-hmm.
Trey Quinn, I would even go as far as putting him in that mix, right?
Very
SMU,
quietly, was
guy.
amazing last year.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
He won't be there. He declared it early for the draft. So did Christian Kirk, receiver for Texas A&M. So did Kiki Cutie from Texas Tech.
Yeah.
A lot of the top receiving options.
It was a good group. I don't think we talked. I mean, we talked about each of these guys individually, but really, you look at this group as a whole, and you go, "Whew, that's a heck of a wide receiving core."
It really is. And so now we're kind of left with somebody's going to need to step up and be the guy as far as receivers are concerned. The good news is there's plenty to choose from in the state of Texas. Everyone's got more or less. There's a couple teams. Rice didn't have a guy. There are a couple other teams that didn't really have a guy, but who had nice years that could be looking forward to a big 2018. And so I looked at all the receivers, and I had to set a limit because otherwise you're talking about guys like there's inevitably going to be like a guy who had 3 catches for like 200 yards and 2 touchdowns. I set the minimum at 30 receptions.
Okay.
I think to be considered the top returning receiver in 2018, you have to have caught at least 30 passes last year. I think that's a fair number.
I think that's a good starting point.
In the end, that leaves us with 15 receivers. Okay? 15 receivers going from guys that you know and are household names all the way down to guys that maybe you didn't realize had great years. Tyler Watts at Texas State had 40 receptions. Jalen Darden, the receiver at North Texas, had 32 receptions. So you kind of get this decent mix of guys. The other thing that's interesting about receivers is I think unlike running backs to a certain extent, or at least to a greater extent than running backs, and definitely to a greater extent than quarterbacks, they have different roles. They're asked different things.
Yeah.
Take the 2 receivers we talked about from SMU who are not going to be there next year. Cortland Sutton is a home run hitter.
Yep.
He is a guy who's going to take the top off the defense.
Yeah.
Do that. Trey Quinn was a third down machine.
Yeah.
Trey Quinn was we need 10 yards, I'm getting 11.
Yep.
Type guy.
Yeah.
Both extremely valuable in their own way.
Yeah, and made each other better.
For
sure.
Okay. So, I looked at the stats, and to me, there are 6 guys that I think you can put in the conversation of best receiver returning in 2000.
I'll be honest, I didn't think you could get to that many, so I'm interested to hear this list.
Number 6, a guy who is very quietly very productive for North Texas, Michael Lawrence. Michael Lawrence was really good for North Texas last year. 62 catches, 819 yards, and 4 touchdowns. He didn't see the touchdown numbers because I think Jalen Guyton was getting a lot of those. But he had an excellent year. And when you've got a guy like Mason Fine, I think bringing back a guy like Michael Lawrence, it's going to be very, very interesting. 5th place, Colin Johnson. Okay, the Texas receiver, 54 catches, 765 yards, just 2 touchdowns receiving. I think if you're looking for a guy who is going to benefit from a second year in a Tom Herman system, here's a guy who can make that leap. I think Colin Johnson could be in for a big year.
Reasonable guess.
2018. He's number 5 on my list. Number 4 on my list. Let's go with Jalen Guyton.
Yeah.
Okay. Another North Texas guy. Big year. Big year. He had 9 touchdowns. He was a touchdown machine. He was the guy they were going to for the big play. Okay. 49 catches, 775 yards, 9 touchdowns. He was their big play threat.
Yeah.
I think he could be in for another big year for them.
Yep.
He's number 4 on my list. Number
easy
3
pick
for me is Jalen Rager.
Yeah.
Receiver for TCU. Dazzled as a freshman.
Yeah.
Had some moments where I was not particularly pleased with him. But
He's a freshman.
He was a freshman.
Made some
dumb freshman mistakes.
Yeah, but
the numbers are impressive.
Yeah.
33 catches, 576 yards, 8 touchdowns. I think if you're looking for a new guy to step up and be that number 1 receiver for TCU, I think Jalen Rager may be that guy. He was fantastic as a freshman. Could make that next league. Number 2, The lost SMU guy, James Prochet.
Yeah, Prochet's awesome.
Okay, 40 catches, 816 yards, and 6 touchdowns. This is a guy who put up monster numbers last year in a crowded receiver corps.
Yeah.
Put up big-time numbers, and I think he could be very, very, very big in 2018 for that SMU offense. I think he's gonna start the year as the number one guy. He's gonna be the number one target for them for that offense with Ben Hicks. But number one for me, do you know who I'm going with?
I don't.
Denzel Mims from Baylor.
Yeah.
Okay. Baylor was bad last year.
Should have thought of that.
Baylor was real bad, and Baylor seemingly couldn't decide on a quarterback. They went through basically 3.
Yeah.
Okay. And yet, Denzel Mims
Consistently a bright spot.
consistently excellent. Yeah. 61 catches, 1,087 yards, and 8 touchdowns. A huge guy. This is a guy who led the state in, as far as receivers are concerned, returning receivers. Mm-hmm. In receptions per game, he was number 1 there. He was also number 1 in yards per game, and he was second in yards per reception.
Dang.
Okay? So he's a big play guy. And I think he could be. I think he's. When you talk about Baylor, they're always going to have that one guy. It's been Terrence Williams in the past. It's been all these receivers who take the top off the defense. Corey Coleman, right?
Yeah.
I think Denzel Mims is that next guy.
Yeah.
I think Denzel Mims is the guy who's going to take that next leap, be the big leap, and be the next big Baylor receiver. And to me, he is right now, March 1st, rather.
Yeah.
I think he's the guy who's going to take that big step and be the next big Baylor receiver. And I think the most exciting returning receiver in the state.
Yeah, and it's easy. I mean, I think just a sort of emblematic of the issues that Baylor had last year that he's too easy to forget. Certainly not for Baylor fans, but for us who are trying to watch 12 teams in the state. But you're right. I mean, in their biggest games, their biggest moments, they were leaning hard on him, and he seemed to deliver constantly. And then didn't he get hurt down the stretch, and we were kind of like, that's really going to hose them trying to win any more games? Mm-hmm. Yeah.
For me,
really yeah.
I look at this. And by the way, there's other guys. If you're looking for the best receiver core, I really think North Texas is going to be excellent. Lawrence, Rico Bussey, who we didn't even mention, was fantastic. I think Texas, if they can have guys take a step forward, Reggie Hemphill, Maps,
he's gone.
Oh, that's right.
He's transferred. Yeah.
Lil Jordan Humphrey.
Lil Jordan Humphrey, though, could be good.
Could be good. Baylor's going to have Pooh Strickland as well, who is excellent. The team that I worry. Oh, Jalen Tartan, by the way. The team that I worry about from a receiver standpoint, though, is A&M.
Yeah.
Basically, you've got Jamont. Like, when you lost Christian Kirk, you lost so much of your receiving
But
firepower.
then it's hard to know. I think in a lot of ways, though, don't you feel like it's possible it's hard to know who's the really talented receiver there because they leaned so much on Kirk. And who could blame them?
Yeah.
I've done the same thing.
Absolutely.
But I think there's definitely an opportunity there for someone to emerge. I think you're right. There's no obvious candidate, but I think they could surprise us.
I think right now, if you're giving me my pick of a returning receiver in the state of Texas, I'm probably going to go with Denzel Mims at Baylor.
I think it's a safe pick.